Your Holiness, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to this Parliament. I would also like to welcome my colleague members of Parliament in front of you. Distinguished members of the company of Your Holiness, warm welcome. The special guests and the audience present here in this room, and of course also the people who are watching this meeting on the internet. We feel highly honored that after 5 years you have again taken the time to visit the Netherlands and have a meeting with the members of the Committee of Foreign Affairs. We experienced already that you have a very busy schedule in the Netherlands and that you will be visiting a large number of countries during your stay in Europe. Your message of peace, human rights, your spiritual leadership and your person appeal to millions of people all over the world. Also in the Netherlands, there's a lively Buddhist community and many Buddhist and non-Buddhist look forward to your visit. And as you noticed, not only, as I already mentioned, the members of the Committee of Foreign Affairs here at the table, next to you, but also many other members of the House of Representatives sitting in front of you, seize the opportunity to listen to your wisdom. As a start of the exchange of views with members, I would like to give Your Holiness the floor to speak to the members of the Parliament and to all the other listeners who are very interested in your message. Please.
Thank you.
I think it's on already.
It's okay.
It's functioning already.
It works already. It works.
Okay.
No light.
Oh, yes.
There is sound.
Okay. Respected Parliament members, and I think some staff member and friends. Thank you. Great honor having the talk with parliamentarians. I always admire and respect the Parliament member. You are, I think, chosen by people with trust, with hope. So you truly represent people. So, and I myself, from childhood, I have some attraction about democracy, democratic system. While I was young, not yet take the political responsibility, through my friends, including sweepers, they are very innocent, very honest, so they bring all sorts of, gossips in the town. So a lot of the stories of such minister, such sort of the leader, really was a bully or exploit like that, and too much what called favoritism like that. So then, gradually, I took the responsibility, and then I think I took the responsibility, I think in 1950, 51, 50, I think. So within few years, I start reform committee. So start some change, reform, but not very successful. Listen, because if we depend on ourselves, initiated some reform, that naturally more suitable to the local condition. The Chinese authority, they want to reform according to their own way. So if reform initiated by Tibetan that might be hindrance for their way of reform. So they not so happy. So when it remained like that way, then some crisis, 56 on, then some problems start. So after 59, when we reach India, then again I try work for democratization. Then 2001, we already achieved elected political leadership. Then my position is a semi-retired position. Then 2011, now I entirely retired from political leadership. So all this, I really admire democratic system. It's the best system. I always believe world belongs to humanity. 7 billion human beings. Each country belongs to the people, not spiritual leaders or kings or queens. Some occasion in America, I express America belongs to about 300 million of American people, not a Democratic Party or Republican Party. So here also, Netherlands belongs to Netherlands people, not necessarily these different parties. So low, you see, you serve people sincerely, transparently, then people's trust remain. So then there is always possibility you re-election. So in any way, I really admire democratic system. So I'm indeed very, very happy to come here. Then, as a sort of introduction of myself, now 79-year-old person, I always describe myself as a simple Buddhist monk. So as a human being, on a fundamental level, we are same human being. So I am one of the 7 billion human beings. On that level, we are social animal. So each of us have to think about the well-being of humanity. Humanity, happy, peaceful, individual human being get maximum benefit. If humanity passing through difficult sort of experiences, then we individual also, you see, suffer. No way to escape, because we are part of the humanity. So, humanity, in order to gain, let's say, the peaceful life, a happy life. Now here, the point is satisfaction, happy life. Not only not only the materials of development or material value, but the internal value is the key factor. So how old is this building? How old? I think old-fashioned. But this light, I think very modern. I never saw.
You like it?
This was.
Very, very beautiful.
Yes.
If fell, then difficult. Really wonderful. So the ultimate factor for happy life, happy mind, is the mental level, self-confidence, inner strength. These things reduce fear, reduce stress, anxiety. less self-confidence, then your mental state is something weak. Then too much worry. Then worry, frustration, develop anger, like that. So therefore, irrespective whether believer or non-believer, these inner value, which biologically we equipped, we all come from our mother. So we all have to experience mother's tremendous affection, including mother's milk. So we all equipped the seed of compassion there. So we can increase, or we can promote these basic human values. This is human affection, human compassion, on warm-heartedness. This is my number one commitment. Number two commitment, I am Buddhist. So all major religious traditions, in spite of different philosophical views, all have same potential to help humanity, bring inner peace, use different method, but same goal, same more or less same effect. So, and then look now, 55 years I remain in India. I stay in India. So India, all major world religious traditions live together. Really, harmony there. This is not only modern India, but also 1,000 years, that kind of sort of religious harmony there. And so it is possible to create genuine harmony among different traditions. So I totally committed, and I had sort of tremendous sort of encouragement from late Pope John Paul II, RCC meeting. Wonderful. So many other religious sort of leaders and genuine sort of practitioners, now many of them really showing interest, and not only interest, but commitment for promotion of religious harmony. So that's my number two Kasota commitment. Then third, I'm Tibetan. So Tibetan really trust me. So therefore, and also I personally, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, Buddhist culture, really immense help for my peace of mind. So therefore, it is my sort of responsibility, or my interest, my commitment for preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan Buddhist tradition. This is not only for our own interest for our own people, but large number of Chinese Buddhists and Buddhist countries in Asia. So preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan Buddhism is something really worthwhile. And also, you see, currently, last, you see, a few decades, there's a lot of danger, degenerate or diminishing because of tight control, like that. So then environment. Tibet environment issue is something very delicate, very important. So these are sort of my commitment. So, human brothers, sisters, see you also, you see, have what's the ability to promote human value and to promote religious harmony. Then regarding Tibet, in this country, of course, free country, free world, and the European Union, really, many decades, is really showing genuine concern And from time to time, they publicly sort of express their concern. And wonderful. The European Union is one of the source of our inspiration. The other side, United States, Canada, these countries, and this side, European Union. Really wonderful. Now you are one important member of the European Union and the Netherlands. Since the 1960s, it's the interest from public really showing, I think, genuine concern about well-being of refugee community. Late Mr. Brower or something. 말왜 브라워 사말왜 되게 두이버 김자 like that. So I would like to thank to you. So now some discussions.
Please. Your Holiness, thank you very much for your introduction. Of course, now we look forward to give the floor to the members of the Parliament, and I would actually, if you don't mind, colleagues, urge you to be brief for just 1 minute asking your question so that all of you could ask a question. And first of all, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ten Broeke from the Labour Party, then to Mrs. Vaas, excuse me, from the Liberal Party. I'm so impressed, Holiness, I'm so impressed. Mr. Ten Broeke from the Liberal Party, then Mrs. Vaas from the Labour Party, and then Mr. Van Bommel from the Socialist Party. Mr. Ten Broeke, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair, and Your Holiness, it's an honor having you here. I think it was about 24 years ago that I had the opportunity to visit Tibet. At the time you were also in the Netherlands. And when I was in Lhasa, I so happened to be able to go to the Potala and see it. And let me first start by expressing my wish that one day you will return there. My question to you is on the Chinese opportunity or the Chinese reforms that you also mentioned, and whether it is possible that you see some dialogue between yourself and the Chinese authorities. Considering the Tibetan Buddhist culture towards reconciliation and the Chinese culture towards harmony and consensus, do you think that these cultural features could be the ingredients of a new dialogue? And what are the opportunities, and what is it that you're looking forward to?
We take the second question first. Is that okay? We take the second question. We take the second question from Mrs. Vaas, and then please the answer to take the time.
I think for me,
You would
easier. Each question
course,
answer,
of course.
question answer, that's better.
Your Holiness,
okay, if you want,
No, Your
okay.
Holiness, please.
Then if
please.
someone make a note, then I can do.
If you would like to answer right away, of course, Your Holiness.
Now, this moment, I'm your disposal. So you have the
Only once.
authority what
Please.
to do.
Please answer.
She's the boss. She's the boss.
Relation between Tibet and China is now almost, I think, nearly 2,000 years old. Sometimes a very happy one, sometimes difficult. So then, recent decades or mid-20th century, some sort of difficult sort of situation developed. However, in early 50s, when I was in Peking, met Chairman Mao Zedong several times. So we developed very sort of close relations, almost like father and son. At that time, we really, and then number of Tibetan communists, we all really feel under the leadership of Chinese Communist Party, we can build, we can modernize Tibet, full of enthusiasm. Then around 1956, 57, most of these Tibetan communists dismissed from their post, military as well as civilian. Then is the Chinese government is a policy becoming more leftist, unrealistic thinking. So that was the causes 1959 crisis. Then we become refugee. Then 1974, we, after sort of a lot of our effort, and also receive, the meaningful advice from Indian government, or mainly Pandit Nehru, and some others. Then, 1974, we decide, now sooner or later, we have to talk with Chinese government. Not seeking separation, but meaningful autonomy, which Constitution, Chinese Constitution itself give that right. Then, at that time, China, full swing of culture revolution. Then, 1979, the Deng Xiaoping indicated he want talk with us. And since then, till 1993, we have direct contact with the Chinese government. But then, mainly because the Chinese overall policy becoming more hardliner. So including Tiananmen massacre happened, took place. So the overall sort of policy become hardliner. So therefore, the 93 ceased direct contact. Again, 2002, we revived direct contact with Chinese government. Then Jiang Zemin was the president. Then few years continuously. But you see, there are still a policy more hardliner. So then, now last few years, now no longer direct contact. However, these last several years, I developed very close contact with number of Chinese, many intellectuals, and many Buddhists, and many students, and some retired officials, military as well as civilian. So then, I think one example. I think last now 3 years, since 3 years, or 4 years, there's a number of articles wrote by Chinese in Chinese language. As far as we notice, about 1,000 articles wrote by Chinese, many of them within mainland China. All over 1,000 articles, all fully support about our middle-earth approach. Very critical, their own government policy. So this is very, very encouraging. So since we are not seeking independence, and also we fully committed non-violent way, so support from Chinese public year by year increasing. Then now Chinese government level, recent now the new leadership, Xi Jinping, it seems he more practical person. His policy is thinking or pursue more realistic way. And recently, you see his expression in Paris, Chinese culture, very much related with Buddhism. So Buddhists should have important role in preservation of Chinese culture. I think it is something very surprising thing, a communist leader now saying something positive about Buddhism. Quite new, isn't it? One time, the Chairman of Mao Zedong, he said, since my relation, Chairman Mao Zedong, is so sort of close. Yeah. So one occasion, Chairman Mao Zedong, you see, hold my hand, like then told me, religion is poison. At that time, I a little bit nervous. So our same party, our same position, the chairman of the Communist Party, now saying something different. I think there's, I have sort of sufficient reasons to say Communist Party have the ability to act according to new reality. I usually say Mao's era, Deng Xiaoping era, Jiang Zemin era, Wu Jintao era, now this is Xi Jinping era. So now China, over 400 millions of Buddhist population. Now China become the biggest Buddhist population of country, like that. So therefore, we'll see. The things overall, I think the things go more right way, right direction, and then Xi Jinping totally committed, sort of dealing with corruption. I think boldly, courageously. So we'll see. Quite hopeful. And firstly, you see, public level, really, year by year, increasing support. And number of Chinese Buddhists follow Tibetan Buddhism. So therefore, public always remain there. The party or government, although the totalitarian sort of government, their life longer. In democratic country, sometimes in short period you see change. However, still people more important. So therefore, I'm optimistic.
Very good. We love optimism.
And meantime, the worldwide sort of the expression of concern is very, very essential. Since we are not seeking independence. So you can tell Chinese, Dalai Lama himself, from his own mouth, say, since 1974, fully committed, not seeking independence. So Chinese official still sort of, repeating, splitist. So actually not like that. So whenever you have opportunity, you should telling them truth. That's important. And then sort of these sort of improvement is their own interest. After all, people from China, sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you.
If you go to the next question, then you have some time.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Your Holiness. I'll give the floor to Mrs. Safas, Labour Party.
Thank you very much. No, not the Liberal Party, the Labour Party. Your Holiness, it's an honor and a pleasure to meet with you here today. I think for a lot of people here, you are a great example of peaceful resistance, and already for a very long time. So we admire that greatly. Let me ask you a question. It's a political question. We can't help ourselves. We are politicians, so we ask political questions. You meeting with a number of politicians in Europe this week, not always on the level of the Prime Minister, but still with ministers, with parliamentarians like ourselves. You already said a number of times that it is important that we keep expressing our concern about this situation in Tibet. But what is your main advice, your main request to us? Are we doing enough? And if not, what else can we do to help your case? Thank you.
Thank you. I often used to telling, just Norway, also I express, one environment issue is essentially non-political. And Tibet environment is something very, very important. Not only 6 million Tibetan people, but I think billion human beings, I think 1 billion human beings, their life depends on those rivers which come from Tibet. From Pakistan up to China, major rivers come from Tibet. So some Chinese ecologists describe Tibet plateau is third pole. So his sort of reason, effect to global warming from Tibetan plateau is as much as South Pole, North Pole. Therefore, he described Tibet plateau is third pole. So this is something I think the global warming effect now everywhere. So Tibetan ecology is something related there. So you also say, best thing, some group or parliamentary group, including some expert about ecology, with full cooperation with Chinese ecologists, go there and analyze or study the situation about damage ecology. Then what we need, precautions. I think suggestions on the basis of scientific research. I think even Chinese government also, I think, need that. So this is one thing. You can practice. You can implement. Then from time to time, you are concerned about human rights violation, religious freedom, as you do. So these are good. And then I think China, 1.3 billion human population, most populated nation. Now economically, you see, gaining more power. So China can take the important constructive role on the global level. So for that reason, China need trust, respect from rest of the world. So that is something very important, long run, for their own interest, for their own sort of image. That I think you, as a good friend, you can express. Not a negative way, for their own interest. I think in China, as I mentioned earlier, you see, there are growing number among the intellectuals. You see, even the previous Prime Minister, Wen Jiabao, he mentioned China need political reform. And in some case, even he mentioned China need American style of democracy. So the Prime Minister, you see, expressed that. So that's the indication among the Chinese, a lot of sort of people who really want more change. So from your sort of expression is more moral support these Chinese people, including Nobel laureate Liu Xiaobo. So like that, this I feel you can do, you can express. Okay.
Thank you, Your Holiness. I give the floor to Mr. Van Bommel, Socialist Party. Mr. Van Bommel.
Your Holiness, the number of self-immolations in Tibet has risen over the last few years. Young monks burning themselves. What is your idea about this? Is it courage? Is it anger? Is it protest? Is it despair? And what can you do to prevent this from happening?
Despair.
Despair.
I think despair. Despair. So, actually, Tibetan loves our own culture, our own language, and particularly Tibetan loves this Buddhist tradition. So, when Chinese hardliner, they're stepping up criticism about religion, about Buddhism, and look down Tibetan culture and tight control. So these people really feel very, very sort of sad. So they choose shorten their life. They no longer sort of bear that kind of, situation. So then this also is a political sensitive issue. So actually, when these things happen, they blame on us from outside.
Instigated.
Instigated. I cannot pronounce that properly. My tongue, some word, English word, pronunciation difficult. So similarly, if you try to speak Tibetan, I think some word you may also find it difficult too. And of course, you see many Chinese, you see, when they try to speak Tibetan, but their pronunciation is something very, very horrible. So in any way, you see, they accuse us, all these created from outside. Like 2008 crisis happened. Even Prime Minister Wenjiabao himself, you see, blame on us. So this is something very, very sensitive sort of thing. Soon after, you see, the 2008 crisis and also this self-burning, I express, please send some Chinese officials check, investigate at Dharamsala in India, whether we involved or not, but nothing happened. So this is very, very sensitive. So whatever I say, they manipulate. So better to keep quiet. So that's my position. But of course, very, very sad thing. One, soon after that happened, one BBC reporter asked me, what's my view? Then I expressed, really, very, very sad. Individual's life is very, very precious. So sad, killing, very, very sad. Then I
think it's fine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Be better? Be fine?
Yes. Okay. And then I express such dramatic sort of action, whether really effective or not, I doubt. I expressed publicly to BBC correspondent. Then soon after that, I was in Japan. Again, you see this question raised. Then I told, this is symptom due to some causes. So now, in order to tackle these things, you must deal the causes of these symptoms. So now time come, Chinese officials should carry thorough investigation. What is the causes? Why is these people so much sorrow, or they're depressed, so much despair? So Chinese government, they do not allow the foreign correspondent in this area. But I think one or two, they went, through their sort of effort, then eventually some area they reach. So that's very, very important, you see. Find out what the real causes. That's my view. I publicly express that. Yes? Next question?
Thank you, Your Highness. If there are more questions, if you might, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Omtzigt, Christian Democratic Party.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Your Holiness, for a clear exposure. A clear exposure of what your views on solving the crisis in Tibet. I have a somewhat more personal question. You've been driven out of Tibet when you were still a very young man, about 60 years ago. What gives you all the energy of combating for a free Tibet? And when do you think you will achieve the freedom for your people which you were looking for?
I always describe myself as a free spokesman for Tibetan people. I'm not a ruler. I always telling Tibetan people, 6 million Tibetan people inside Tibet is our boss. So future of Tibet depends on them. It is our duty. Act according to their wish. So Tibetan determination, Tibetan spirit inside Tibet never weakened. Generation change. In some cases, the younger generation's Tibetan spirit is stronger than elder people. So we, as a sort of people who say, do on behalf of these people, it's so long their spirit remain high. We also, you see, have to remain that way. I think if there is no Tibetan problem there, only a handful of Tibetans problem. And I think now, after 55 years, I think we more or less quite well settled. Those is a few thousand Tibetans in European continent, in Belgium, in Holland, in Switzerland, they more or less quite well settled. No longer much worry. But we are acting on behalf of these people. So they still face difficulties or problems. So always sending message to us. So we have to think about their right, like that. And then, as far as sort of middle way approach, not seeking independence, number of Tibetan intellectuals inside, verbally, written way, express their full support. They feel middle way approach is the realistic, best way, like that. So therefore, we carry their wish. So that's the main reason. Then I think, as I've already mentioned, I think things are changing. I think overall, no matter how sort of powerful people from China, still part of the world. World trend, more openness, more freedom. So that's a world trend. So China have to go along that trend, cannot go wrong way. So, and then also I mentioned the Chinese people, among Chinese people, there are, the voice or desire for open society, these things down there. So basically, we are optimistic, full of optimism. Then how soon this is some mutually agreeable solution find, that nobody knows. I think Chinese top leaders also do not know how long it will remain, these difficulties. So difficult to definite. I think overall, it's the last, now, I think over 60 years, you see much change. Yes, next question.
Thank you, Your Highness. There are more members who would love to ask you questions. Mr. Bosma, Party for Freedom, and then Mr. Schutzman.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I understand you did a speech last Saturday in Rotterdam in which you clearly outlined the dangers of Sharia law. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on your views on Sharia.
Sharia law.
Oh, Sharia law, that's, you see, I think, you see, in different tradition, different sort of the practice or different sort of concept. That is more or less private business. So Sharia law is the business of the Muslim. Yesterday, my talk, my explanation about Buddhism, then one questioner, one lady expressed to me, say, among my presentation or explanation, Buddhism, one of the religion which have no concept of creator, and she feel very uncomfortable. She prefer the creator. That concept is something very helpful. And then I told, yes, people who have different tradition, it is much better to keep your own traditional sort of religious faith. So changing sometimes create more confusion. So then I told her, for you, it is much better to keep the concept of creator. So concept of creator is your business. That lady, I told, your business. And no creator, concept of no creator, that's my business, no problem. So Sharia also, I think the non-Muslim criticize that, I don't know, difficult. But within Muslim, I met some Muslims, very, very genuine Muslim practitioner. At the same time, quite have some reservation about some of their sort of practice or thinking. So, I think even within Buddhism, I think some certain sort of rule or certain practice, sometimes I think necessary to modify. So, like these things, as you can. Recently, I think 1 year ago, I met some group from Muslim country, group of Muslim come. And among them, one teacher, female teacher. So in that, I think the Kasa means EU, Kasa, United Arab Republic, Emirate. You see, they come, and also some, I think Jordan or some, I think Abu Dhabi or something. No, one group. So among them, one lady as a teacher.
Fantastic.
In Afghanistan or some other places, you see some sort of difficulties. So therefore, I told them, see, you have the responsibility. You can do more as a Muslim, and then should have some sort of meeting, discuss about women's right. We, from outsider, you see, saying something is not good. So within Muslim community, those more liberal thinking should initiate more talk.
Here.
Like that. So that's my view.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Highness. I give the floor to Mr. Schutzma, Democratic Party.
Thank you, Your Holiness. A short question. You've met almost all important leaders of the world. You've met President Obama, Prime Minister Cameron, but unfortunately you did not meet our Prime Minister, Mr. Rutte. I was wondering how you feel about this, but also what would you have told our Prime Minister if you would have met him?
If I met, these topics I will tell. Nothing special. If I want to seek some sort of help or more immigrants, Tibetan immigrants, then if I have some sort of particular sort of agenda, then of course the request. I have nothing. So, so in Norway, no one from government side is met. No problem. My main purpose is meeting public, because the promotion of human value, promotion of religious harmony, mainly depend on public, not government leaders or even parliament member. I think not much. You cannot do much. So real sort of initiative, real change must start from public individuals, families, 10 family, 100 family, 1,000 family. Then it makes differences. So initiative must start from individual person. So my main interest is talking with public, not leaders. One time, I think in Netherlands, I also met the Queen Mother. Yes. Oh, wonderful lady. Really. And I think her husband, the Prince Bernard or something, isn't it? Yeah. I met in their palace, like that. So, to me, whenever I meet some important person, firstly, I look human level. So the person show real human love, human affection, like that mother, Queen Mother, really showing that. So I love that. Some leaders, when you met, they are not acting like a human being, but something a little bit different. Then I find it very difficult, even 1 second, difficult. Then as soon as finishing that meeting, much better. A person who really showing human being sort of thing, truly, like President Bush, I love him. Oh, really? From first meeting, immediately, you see, we develop close human feeling. Some of his policy is concerned, I have some reservation. So, actually, by I think third or fourth meeting, him, and I also used to told, I love you, I respect you, but if may I say so, some of your policy is concerned, I have some reservation. He laughing.
Thank you very much, Your Holiness. We still have a few minutes to go, if I heard.
Oh, yes.
So I'm really,
yes.
I think
no
the members
problem.
are really happy with that.
Still,
I would like to
think 15 minutes. 15
I'd like to
minutes.
give the floor to...
No problem.
Thank you so much for taking time. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Klaver from the Green Left and afterwards to Mrs. Ouwehand from the Party for the Animals. Mr. Klaver, please.
Thank you, Your Holiness. Sometimes I think it's more difficult to be a parent than a politician, so I have a personal question for you. My son now is 6 months old, and what are the most important values I should teach him?
His father's 6 months old now.
6 years?
6 months.
6 months. 6 months. He's a small
6
baby.
months.
Oh.
Yeah, he has a baby.
He just became father.
What are the basic values that you would like to have him install?
Family values.
I'm monk. No experience. No experience, you see, nurturing child. I think you should ask some experienced parents or grandparents. Then I think they will tell you. But one congratulations, your new child. Thank you. Next question.
This was about nurture and nature.
Thank you. Very simple question. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will go to the last question. We'll go to the last question, Mrs. Ouwehand, Party for the MLS, please.
Thank you so much. I would like to express our thankfulness. Last time you were here, you told us that if you were a Dutch citizen, you would vote for our party, the Party for Animal Rights, because it is so important to show compassion to all life, in the case for humanity and human rights. So I would like to thank you for that. And my question is a rather short one. How are you?
Now getting older, some problem, my knees. Otherwise, you say, okay, no problem. No problem. I appreciate your sort of, because of the expression of my sort of, appreciation. Human love, these things. So I appreciate. And I think young father, I think now you have sort of one, because of the good opportunity nurturing that child. And in this moment, I think some scientists, medical scientists, they say physical touch, mainly mother, very, very important for proper development or enlargement of their brain. So you should spend more time with your child, and then eventually, you see, go to school. You see, you should spend more time with your child, and then beside education in school, you should sort of teach some kind of, teach or share the importance of love, affection. That's important. As a human being, I can say, my own case, my mother, extremely sort of warm-hearted sort of mother, illiterate, poor family, but really sort of tremendous sort of affection. Not only her own children, but some sort of at one occasion, this is some famine in neighbor sort of area. So number of Chinese as they come to our village. They're nearly starving. So my mother, when she telling the story, she wept. And she told us, one day some sort of couple, parent, and carry dead body of their child. And then my mother told, oh, I will have you properly bury your child. Then they say, no, we are going to eat. So they are facing starvation. Then my mother cry. And the whole sort of, because of the whole things which in my mother's sort of house, bread or these things, all give that person. Then please don't eat your own dead child's body. So, the first teacher, I always say, first teacher of compassion is my mother, not religious leader. So you all have, as the opportunity to teach your children more. Teach this not through word, but through action, affection, sincere affection. That's the proper way to get deeper experience of, because of the love. Then such people who receive the maximum affection early part of life, then they can easily show love and affection to others. Okay? So that's my advice.
Your Holiness, this was about tender love and care, TLC. Your Holiness, I would like to thank you for your inspiring words and your message of hope that left no one untouched this morning here. Once again, thank you for your visit to our Parliament.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And may I invite you to take personal leave of the members of the committee now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. 가져오세요.
Yeah.
Yes. Where? Members of Parliament. Yes.